Welcome back. Today's episode is for everyone who's ever looked at a wall in their kitchen and thought, how hard can it be? The answer, every single time, is harder than that. Please leave a comment saying which city you're from and whether you've done any renovations. We're counting down 13 home renovation projects that started with confidence and a YouTube tutorial and ended with structural reports, fire investigators, lawsuits, divorce papers, or in a few cases, an ambulance. Hit subscribe if your idea of a relaxing weekend involves measuring twice and cutting once. Let's get into it. Number 1. The doomsday bunker that ate its builder. Bethesda, Maryland, USA. 2017. Most home renovation disasters start with a misunderstanding about load paths. This one starts with a misunderstanding about North Korea. Has anyone thought about building a bunker? Let us know in the comments. Daniel Beckwith was a millionaire day trader living in a respectable suburban house in Bethesda, Maryland. He was also, privately, terrified of being nuked. So he did what every reasonable person with too much money and too much paranoia does. He decided to build a secret nuclear bunker. Under his house. Himself. Well, almost himself. He hired a 21-year-old kid named Askia Kafra to do the actual digging. And here's where the project goes from eccentric rich guy project to genuine crime scene in waiting. Beckwith didn't want Kafra to know where the dig site was, so he made him wear blackout glasses on the drive. He used internet spoofing to fake a Virginia IP address. He lied about the address. Every single drive to work, this kid was being treated like a kidnapping victim. And the kid kept showing up because the pay was good. The tunnels eventually stretched about 200 feet in 3 directions, 20 feet underground. The basement above them looked like a hoarder convention. And one day, while Kafra was deep in the tunnels, an electrical fire broke out in that basement. Kafra texted Beckwith, "I smell smoke." Beckwith did not reply for 6 hours. When he finally did reply, he told Kafra, casually, that there had been a major electrical failure and he had switched it all over to another circuit. He did not get the kid out. The basement, packed with junk, was already burning. Kafra never made it back up. He was found in the tunnels. Beckwith was convicted of second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. The lesson here is unusually clean. When your home renovation project requires blindfolded contractors, fake locations, and lies about which state you're in, the project has stopped being a renovation. It's now just a paperwork delay before the indictment. Number 2, the stud wall that lifted the house. Some renovation mistakes are loud. Some are dramatic. This one is just quietly catastrophic in a way that takes about a week to fully reveal itself. A homeowner is finishing his basement. Do you dream of having a billiards room in your basement? Solid weekend project. He frames up a new stud wall to divide the space. Top plate, bottom plate, vertical studs at 16 inches on center. All the right materials. The framing itself is textbook. Here is the only thing he did wrong. When he cut his vertical studs, they came out about 1 inch too long. The wall, once assembled flat on the floor, was now slightly taller than the gap between the basement slab and the joists overhead. The correct fix takes about 20 minutes with a circular saw. Stand the wall back down. Trim every stud by 1 inch. Stand it back up. Move on with your life. That is not what he did. What he did was grab a sledgehammer and start pounding the wall into place. Now I want every contractor and structural engineer watching this to feel their soul leave their body for just a moment, because they have already pictured the next sentence. The wall went in. It also lifted a section of his entire first floor by approximately 1 inch. Doors upstairs stopped closing properly. Hairline cracks raced up the drywall on both sides of the wall above. The hardwood seams telegraphed the new high spot for anyone who knew what to look for. He had, without meaning to, built a vertical column, and that column was now actively jacking up the load-bearing structure of his own house. 24 hours a day, no breaks, no off switch. A structural engineer eventually came out, took one look, and explained it to him in language his insurance company would later request a transcript of. The fix cost more than a contractor would have charged for the entire basement remodel. Measure twice, cut once. Do not, and I will say this slowly, do not hammer dimensions into compliance. Wood does not negotiate. It just transmits. Number 3, the Ouija board hardwood floor. A tattoo studio, somewhere in the United States. Robert Bulla was a tattoo artist. One day, he tore up the gross old carpet in his shop and discovered, underneath, something that real estate agents pray about at night. Gorgeous, original century-old hardwood floors. Intact. Tight grain. Easily worth several $1,000s in restoration value. A massive selling point for the building. Normal person rents a sander, refinishes the floor, and watches the building's value jump. Robert Bulla looked at this gift from the past and had a different idea. A bigger idea. An idea he was certain his Instagram followers would love. He decided to burn a giant Ouija board, letters, numbers, the planchette, the works, directly into the antique floor with a soldering iron. And to be fair to him, the followers did love it. He posted the finished floor, and it got 22,000 shares overnight. Comments split into 2 perfect halves. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen, and what have you done? The thing about a deep burn mark in hardwood is that it does not buff out. It does not stain over. You can sand the floor down a millimeter, 2 millimeters, half the plank, and the carbonized scar in the wood fibers will still be visible. He had not decorated the floor. He had permanently destroyed it. Every future owner of that building who didn't want a giant occult game board in their floor would have to rip out and replace every single plank. The likes went up. The equity went down. Future appraisals never see the engagement metrics. This is the entire trap of the social media era renovation in one floor. Content rewards bold. Resale rewards reversible. You only ever find out which game you were really playing when the appraiser shows up. Number 4. The ground rod that hit the gas main. Anytown, USA. This one is for the electricians in the audience. The rest of you, listen carefully, because this case is going to come up at someone's barbecue, and you'll want to know what really happened. A homeowner is upgrading his electrical service. New panel, bigger amperage, the works. As part of any service upgrade, you need a proper grounding electrode. A long copper rod driven about 8 feet into the earth and bonded to the panel. Code required. Fundamental. And honestly, the kind of task a careful homeowner could do on paper with a sledge and an afternoon. He did not call 811. 811 is the free phone number in every American state, where you tell them you're about to dig, and they send out marking crews to spray paint the location of every buried utility under your property. Gas, water, electrical, fiber, sewer. They show up for free. They take about 3 days. So, he started pounding his ground rod into the ground right next to his service panel. Exactly where every electrician would put it. Beautiful spot. Code compliant. And directly above the natural gas service line feeding his house. The copper rod went straight through the steel gas pipe. There was no boom. That would have actually been merciful. A single loud event. Deal with it. What happened instead is much worse. A small, silent, continuous leak began feeding natural gas up through the soil and into the basement, through every micro crack in the slab, all night long. By morning, the lowest floor of the house was a fuel air bomb just waiting for a spark. The furnace thermostat clicked, the pilot lit, and the entire ground level of the house immediately redistributed itself outward in every direction. Listen to your electricians, your plumbers, and your utility crews on this one. That phone call to 811 is not bureaucratic theater. It is the only system standing between I saved 3 days and I removed my roof at the speed of sound. The ground rod has no idea what it just hit. You're the one who's supposed to know. Before we get to the next case, I want to read something from one of you. This came from a contractor in the comments on last episode. And bless you, sir, for the patience. Quote, never knock down a wall that holds your rafters. I fix many places where people just think, I'll knock this wall out and nothing bad will happen. And then it takes 2 weeks to fix, if they don't destroy the house entirely. End quote. Which is the perfect segue because our next contestant didn't knock down a wall. He removed something even sneakier, and an entire neighbor's house went with it. Number 5. He took the dirt that was holding the other house up. United Kingdom. In London, basement extensions are a fashionable upgrade. The footprint of the house stays the same, but you dig down. A new basement, sometimes two, adding a whole floor of luxury space without changing a single thing the planning commission can see from the street. Professional basement extensions are an entire branch of structural engineering. You underpin the existing foundation in stages. You install temporary steel propping. You shore up every adjacent wall, especially any party walls shared with neighbors. You stage the excavation slowly, deliberately, with engineer sign-off at each phase. It takes months and costs a significant amount of money. Our contestant in the UK looked at this elaborate process and thought, I have a digger and a weekend. Tons of soil came out from under his house. No temporary shoring went in. No structural propping was installed. And, critically, no support was given to the party wall shared with the neighboring half of his semi-detached property. And here is the part the carpenter from the comments was warning you about. Soil under a foundation is not just dirt. It is structure. The dirt under your neighbor's foundation has a job, and that job is holding your neighbor's house up. He didn't have to touch the neighbor's wall, the neighbor's foundation, or anything visible. He just had to take the dirt. Mid-job, the neighbor's side partially collapsed. The official safety report later concluded, and I quote it word for word, because it is a masterpiece of British understatement. No propping restraints were put in place to any of the surrounding walls. Translation: he removed the dirt that was holding his neighbor's house plumb, and gravity did the rest exactly the way gravity has been doing it since the Earth had a surface. A load path doesn't care if you can see it. A load path doesn't care if it's just dirt. A load path will find the next thing willing to support the load, and if that thing isn't there, the load goes looking for the floor. And your neighbor's living room is the floor. Number 6, the indoor pool that composted the house. USA. Some renovation disasters happen in a single dramatic moment. This one happens over 6 years, silently, and by the time anyone notices, the house has already been dead for a while. A DIY enthusiast wanted an indoor swimming pool. Picture every dream he had of it. Bond villain energy, year-round swimming, a low hum of luxury. He priced out the professional installation, vapor barriers in the walls, commercial-grade dehumidification units, dedicated air handling for the pool room, sealed pool room construction with specialty drywall and treated framing. Tens of thousands of dollars in things you cannot see. He looked at that list and thought, most of this is invisible. So most of this is optional. He installed the pool. Just the pool. He skipped the vapor barrier. He skipped the dedicated air system. What he had built, without realizing it, was a slow-release biological weapon aimed at his own building. Air saturated with chlorinated water vapor seeped into every wood stud, every drywall sheet, every duct run. Year 1, you smell something faintly off. Year 2, the paint starts behaving weirdly around the upstairs windows. Year 3, mold appears in places mold should not be. Year 4, the framing inside the walls is rotten. Year 5, the HVAC is colonized. Year 6, the house is condemned. An indoor pool is not a large bathtub with ambition. It is a precision-controlled humidity environment, and the engineering that turns luxury feature into successful house with a pool is entirely the part you can't see. He saved approximately $40,000 on the install. He lost the house, the contents, and several years of family health. When the engineer says the vapor barrier is non-negotiable, the engineer is not asking you to fund his vacation. The engineer is the only person in the room who has met humidity before. Number 7, the forced storm door. USA. Here is a calibration test. If you read the words, "I'll just put in a new storm door," and your first thought was that's a Saturday afternoon, congratulations. You may be about to write me a story for a future episode. A homeowner decided to install a new storm door himself. Reasonable goal. The honest version of that project takes a careful measurement of the existing frame, a clean removal of the old hinge hardware, a check that the jamb is still plumb, fresh fasteners landing in solid framing, and a calm evening with a level. Skipped all of it. He drilled the new hinges directly into the existing door frame, without removing the original hardware, and without checking that the jamb was still true. The new hinge screws caught on hidden old fasteners. Instead of stopping, he leaned on the drill. The hinge screws crushed the surrounding molding, sprang the jamb out of alignment, and dragged the entire wall section a 1/4 inch out of square. The new door went on. Cool, right? He was done in 3 hours instead of 6. Within a week, the door stopped latching. Hairline cracks were running up the drywall on both sides of the entry. A draft came through that no weather stripping could close. A finger pressure test on the trim made it move. A contractor finally came out and gave a verdict the homeowner described with great pain as the worst news I've ever paid for. The fix wasn't a new door. The fix was tearing out the trim, the jamb, the threshold, and a portion of the surrounding wall section, re-squaring the rough opening, and starting again at roughly 10 times the cost of the storm door itself. The original door, by the way, was working fine before any of this began. Doors are deceptive. They look like an item you bolt to a wall. They are actually a calibrated system whose performance depends on every single millimeter of the wall around them. You don't install a door. You install a relationship between a moving panel and a perfectly true frame. Force one, lose the other. Number 8. The bedroom charcoal grill heater. Watsonville, California, USA. There are bad ideas in this episode. And then there is this case, which crosses a line specifically marked by warning labels on every single charcoal bag sold in the Western world for the last 40 years. 2 roommates, both 21, were cold in their shared bedroom. The heater wasn't working, or it was, but the bill wasn't being paid. Either way, the room was uncomfortable, and they decided to do something about it. They went out to the back patio, picked up the small charcoal barbecue grill, carried it inside, set it down on the bedroom floor, lit it, closed the door, and went to sleep. I want every parent watching this to lean over and tell every teenager in the house, right now, that charcoal does one thing in a sealed room. It eats the oxygen. And it replaces that oxygen with carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless gas that binds to the hemoglobin in your blood roughly 200 times more efficiently than oxygen does. Your body keeps trying to deliver oxygen. There's nothing left to deliver. One of them never woke up. The other was found barely alive, discovered just in time. This is on every single bag of charcoal in big, bold letters. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has been screaming about it for 40 years. People still try it every winter. The reason it keeps happening is that charcoal feels familiar. It's the grill. It's the cookout. It's the smell of summer. The mind classifies it as harmless because it's been in your life since you were a kid. But a charcoal grill burns the same way whether it's on a patio with the open sky above it or in a sealed bedroom with the door closed. Only one of those locations lets you wake up. I'm not going to make a clever joke here. Charcoal indoors is the one mistake on this list with a 100% fatality rate when uninterrupted. And if you take exactly one fact from this episode, take this one. Number 9. The plastic rake handle zip line. Suburban USA. A young man named Ethan decided that his backyard, which contained a dry, rocky creek bed and 2 strong trees, was missing. One feature, a zip line. The trees were perfect. The cable run was a clean 40 feet. The drop into the creek bed was, conservatively, 30. A real ziplining kit, the kind you can order online for around $40. Comes with a steel trolley, a proper handlebar, and a rated cable. Ethan did not order one. Ethan had a rope and a plan. The rope went up. he anchored it carefully between the two trees. So far, so good. The structural part of his build was, in his words, rock solid. The problem was the part he had to actually hold on to. He didn't want to buy a trolley, so he cut the plastic handle off a garden rake, drilled 2 holes in it, and threaded the rope through. Improvised handle. Aesthetically, bold. The first slow test ride, a complete success. He felt like a genius. Then came the real run. Full speed across the gap. And here is the physics his hardware store handle had not been engineered to survive. Friction between a sliding rope and a plastic surface under load at speed generates heat. A lot of heat. Halfway across the run, the rake handle softened, deformed, and then snapped clean through. Ethan dropped 30 feet onto rocks. Compound ankle fracture. Surgery. 2 screws. Months of physical therapy. He kept the leg. The rope was fine. The trees were fine. The anchors were fine. The system failed at exactly the point where $6 and a real trolley would have saved him from the experience of meeting a creek-bed at terminal velocity. Every backyard zipline disaster, and there are a lot of them, fails at the same place. The load-bearing component nobody respected. Number 10, the Master Bedroom Strip Club. USA, not every renovation disaster ends in injury, or in a fire, or in a structural report. Some of them just end a marriage. A man whose wife was traveling for a week looked around their bedroom and decided that what their relationship needed was, in his words, a surprise. His vision was a full-home strip club, installed in their master bedroom, ready for her arrival. The build, documented online in real time, was thorough. A real stripper pole drilled straight up into the ceiling joists. Red rope lighting installed around the perimeter of the room. Mirrored ceiling tiles glued overhead. A small smoke machine in the corner. The window blacked out with construction paper. A Bluetooth speaker hidden behind a bed. He posted progress photos. He was, by his own description, going to blow her mind. The comment section split immediately into 2 camps. A small minority impressed by the workmanship, a much larger and more concerned majority asking over and over whether his wife had any idea this was happening. She came home one day early. The post is still online, by the way. The follow-up post is not. According to subsequent updates from him, the mirrored ceiling tiles came down within hours. The pole was removed within a week. The marriage, by his own admission, did not survive the renovation. Here is the strangely poignant engineering note hiding inside this story. The pole, anchored properly into the joists, was the most structurally sound thing in that house. It could have held 5 times his body weight. The relationship had no such bracing. Everything else in the room was easier to take down than what was actually broken. Sometimes the catastrophic structural failure is not in the framing. Sometimes it's in the part of the project you never thought to engineer. Number 11, the pool buried in concrete USA. A homeowner inherited an aging in-ground concrete swimming pool he did not want and could not afford to maintain. The correct removal: excavate the concrete shell, haul it away, break it up, refill the cavity with engineered fill soil compacted in lifts. Estimated cost: around $10,000. Time: about a week. He had a cheaper idea. His idea was, just fill the pool with concrete. I want you to picture how much concrete that is. He ordered ready mix trucks. Multiple trucks. He poured 50-some tons of cement into the pool basin until it was level with the surrounding yard. From above, the yard looked smooth. He stood there, brushed his hands together, and called it done. What he had actually done is bury a 60,000-pound concrete iceberg in his own backyard. Forever. The consequences are slow, but absolute. He cannot plant a tree in that section of yard. The roots have nowhere to go. He cannot dig footings for a shed, a deck, a hot tub, a fence, a swing set, or anything else he might ever want there. He cannot install proper drainage. The buried slab redirects water in unpredictable ways and now soaks his foundation instead. The soil immediately around the slab tries to settle on its own schedule, separate from the slab itself, so subsidence cracks appear at the edges every spring. And when he eventually goes to sell the house, every single home inspector in the country will write partially filled in-ground pool, concrete cap, on the report. And every single buyer will adjust their offer down by approximately, you guessed it, the cost of proper removal. He didn't save $10,000. He spent the same $10,000 on something the property can never recover from. He prepaid for a problem that compounds with interest. Number 12. The Bottle Jack House Lifter USA. A homeowner notices that one corner of his single-story house has settled. Doors stick. The baseboard doesn't quite meet the floor. There's a slight slope when he sets a marble on the kitchen counter. Classic foundation problem. The honest fix is helical piers driven down to stable subsoil or bedrock, hydraulic synchronization across multiple pier points, and engineer's stamp on the work. A real foundation contractor with the right equipment doing what they do. Several $1,000s. He had a different plan. A simpler plan, a plan that required exactly one trip to the auto parts store. He bought a 12-ton bottle jack, the kind designed to lift the corner of a pickup truck, picked up a stack of cinder blocks for a base, and crawled under the corner of his house with the entire setup balanced on the dirt. The jack worked perfectly. The cinder blocks held. The house did not budge. And then, slowly, the bottom of the stack of cinder blocks began to sink straight into the soft soil beneath them. He kept pumping. The jack kept transferring force downward into ground that had no interest in resisting it. The corner he was trying to lift settled farther into its own depression. He spent 4 hours under his house, actively making his foundation problem worse. By the end of the afternoon, the cinder block stack was 3 inches below grade. The corner he was lifting was half an inch lower than it had been when he started. This is the part of the lesson that real foundation contractors all over the country want shouted from every roof in the developed world. The soil under your foundation is the problem. It's not the team you're playing for. It's the team you're playing against. You cannot beat soil failure by stacking blocks on the soil that is failing and applying 12 tons of upward force. You have just invented a portable settling accelerator. Steel piers go to bedrock for one reason. The only thing that can hold a house up is something the house was not previously resting on. Number 13. The Indianapolis Gas Line Thawer. Indianapolis, Indiana, USA. For our final entry, we are going to revisit a familiar story, and then we are going to upgrade it one critical step into the absolute Hall of Fame. The familiar story goes like this. It's winter. A homeowner's pipes have frozen. He decides to thaw them himself. Instead of a hairdryer, a heat lamp, or one of the dozens of safe tools sold for exactly this purpose at any hardware store in the country, he grabs a propane torch and goes after the pipes with an open flame. Whatever ignites in the joists ignites. The house burns. Standard cautionary tale. The Red Cross handles the rest. Our man in Indianapolis took that standard tale and made it ascend to a higher level. He crawled into his crawl space, propane torch lit, ready to thaw out his frozen pipes. And the pipes he was about to thaw were not water lines. They were the natural gas service lines to his house. Now, somewhere along those gas lines, there was a tiny, slow leak. The kind that doesn't smell strong because in an unconditioned crawl space, the mercaptan additive disperses faster than your nose can register it. He couldn't smell it. The torch could. Sparks, or just the heat of the open flame near a gas-rich pocket of air, found the leak. The crawl space ignited. The fire traveled up through the floor framing and into the walls. The Indianapolis Fire Department report later read, in the kind of dry, weary tone fire departments reserve for the truly avoidable, that the cause was open flame applied to natural gas piping. The house was unsalvageable. Somehow, he survived. And remembering our wise commenter from a moment ago, yes, physics does in fact exist for a reason. The reason is this. Physics is the part of reality that does not care about your confidence. Physics does not care about your plan. Physics does not give bonus points for trying. Physics evaluates exactly one thing: the configuration of energy in the room. And it responds to that configuration with absolute, predictable mathematical certainty. Putting an open flame near a natural gas leak gives you a fire. Every time. In every house, on every continent. Forever. You don't argue with it, you don't outsmart it. You either respect it or you become a fire department training video. And there's your tour of 13 home renovation projects that started in confidence and ended in either litigation, divorce, structural collapse, or all three. Some of these people thought they were saving money. Some of them thought they were creating art. One of them was trying to outsmart a missile. And all of them, every single one, were operating under the same beautiful, dangerous human assumption: that the people who do this professionally are just charging too much for what is fundamentally a simple job. If you made it to the end of this episode, you have officially absorbed more home renovation wisdom than 14 of the people on tonight's list. That's progress. Hit that subscribe button if you'd rather watch the legends than become one. Smash that like button if you've ever lovingly described a contractor as the smartest investment I never thought I needed. Ring the notification bell because next episode is already in the research stage, and the bar for getting into it is sadly very, very low. Now you can watch a video explaining why you shouldn't give a knife to a rooster. You can see the link to the video on the screen. Until next time, stay smart, stay subscribed.